Hello everyone, this is Forest Green here, and today I'm here with my versus battle. Now before I get on to all the meat and potatoes, let me get a couple things off my chest. Just want to say big shout out to Corin O'Keefe for helping me with the research, for helping me with some of the images and the videos. Also big shout out to some of the other folks who subscribed as well. Big shout out to Aiden Kerr, Simple Star for being Simple Star. Oof. Anyway, so I'm gonna get on with this fight, and I'm gonna introduce both of the combatants. So of course we have the Master of the Raging Demon Akuma versus the Ninth Espada Aaroniero. Who will win this very, very furious and destructive, formidable fight? Anyway, let's get started. So of course, I also have some rules here for this fight. The rules are there'll be no outside help. The only time I will allow outside help is if both parties are using outside help. For example, like Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. That's just one of the examples. There'll be only canon information only, so there'll be no like non-canon rubbish that that doesn't make sense with the characters, no inconsistencies or anything like that. How the fights will go on is basically character personality / serious. So I will take in account different personalities for the character. For example, certain characters can be cocky, certain characters can be, serious. But yes, now that I've covered those rules, let's get started with Akuma versus Aaroniero. So let's get on with the backstory for Akuma first. So the story summary: Akuma, the brother of Goken. He and his brother trained alongside their master, and for the most part, they were pretty respectable towards their master. However, one day, their master introduced them to a new technique, a technique that requires you to give up compassion for others. But Akuma's brother, Goken, was not a fan of this. But you can imagine that Akuma jumped at the chance to obtain more power. So he went off and trained by himself for a little while, and came back and actually killed his master and defeated his own brother in a fight. Then he mastered the power of the Raging Demon, and from then on out he would be known as the Demon Akuma. So now that I've covered up some of the backstory, I'm going to get on with some of the more nitty-gritty information about him. So I'm going to go over his power and attack potency and all. I'm going to go over his hacks, his abilities and skills, and some of his feats that he's accomplished. Some of it won't be in order, so let's get started. So Akuma has key manipulation, as he uses key like based attacks, to amplify and of course increase the strength of his physical abilities. For example, like when he uses moves such as the Tatsumaki Senpuken, which is basically like a spinning helicopter kick. That is all of pretty much the Shotos in Street Fighter are known to do. He also has the Go Hadouken, which is like his own version of a Hadouken, and the Go Shoryuken, which is his own version of the Shoryuken. He also has the Demon Teleport, which allows him to teleport pretty quickly at high speeds. He can also use the Raging Demon, an attack that can destroy the host's soul if they do not empty their soul from all negative feelings such as rage, hate, darkness and desires. Also, this does not work on beings who basically have no like evil intent in their soul, basically pure souls, pure of heart souls. But yes, continuing on, he does have some interesting resistance to soul absorption, as he was able to break out of Nakali's stomach as he was devoured by him. In fact, I got some images on the screen. In base, he was able to casually used the Munko Tensho to burst out of Necali's stomach when Necali was just about to devour Akuma's soul as well as his being. Akuma also has some heat resistance, which is very good, as he was able to survive being around and inside volcanoes. Not to mention he actually tanked a volcano erupting in his Oni form, which I'll get into quite soon. Going over the forms, of course, we have Shin Akuma. That's his most powerful. That is his amped up form. He's pretty strong in this form in terms of like attack potency. In base, he's around city level. Now, don't throw pitchforks at me just yet. Now, me and Koro Keith went over this. Yes, he did the impressive feat where he punched Aya's Rock, which is like a large island, not like a large, but like a small island, fairly big. But he didn't destroy the island; he made it sink. But the terrain around him was pretty much pulverized to dust. He pretty much cut whatever was around him. So that definitely makes him around like city level. Definitely was able to sink, the island. We could call him an island buster if he, destroyed the actual island itself, but that's not the case. But anyway, in his Shin Akuma form, he's around large island level, as he was able to destroy a meteor, I should say, that was coming towards Earth. The size of a meteor, of the meteor, was like equivalent to a very large island, further proving him to be around large island level, which is very impressive. I'm going to talk about his Oni form. Now, note there isn't enough information on this. So, like, in terms of me giving, just like a description on his, how strong he gets, I'm gonna pretty much lowball it. So, I'm not gonna wank it or anything, because there's not enough information to go on the Oni form, because he was only released last moment in the Ultra Street Fighter games. But yes, Oni is Akuma's most powerful form. In this form, Akuma gives in completely to the Satsui no Hado and receives a rather lump sum boost. It is unclear as to how stronger Akuma gets in this form, as there isn't enough information, as I said before, to go on it. So to be on the safe side, I'm going to lowball, and I'm going to assume he just receives like a 2 times boost in his stats. But when Oni gets more information, we'll definitely be able to give like a feasible argument and a rough estimate on how strong Oni is. So that's enough about Akuma in terms of all of his hacks and stuff. Gonna go on to the intelligence. Akuma is very skilled in hand-to-hand combat, as he's no stranger to his own profound knowledge in his own version of demon martial arts. He's not particularly a strategist, but he's not exactly the dumbest. He's not exactly stupid. In terms of reaction speed, Akuma's travel speed and reaction speed is around hypersonic plus, so around Mach 5, probably Mach 7. As he was able to casually dodge a Hadouken from Ryu, which moved at hypersonic speeds. He was able to also keep up with M. Bison during their fight in Street Fighter Alpha. Bison was moving really quick, definitely around hypersonic, which is very impressive. Durability. Akuma's durability is the same as his attack potency, as he uses ki as his primary methods of fighting. As the more ki you have, the better all your stats are. Basically, it's very similar to Dragon Ball Z, how when your ki rises and you get more stronger, all of your stats benefit, which is really nice. Weaknesses. Akuma doesn't really have that many weaknesses. Akuma tends to go easy on his opponents, and he purposely suppresses himself to observe his opponent to see if they're worthy of his time, worthy of him actually going all out. He purposefully seeks stronger opponents to see, you know, if they're worth, you know, going all out, and he'll even let them kill him if they're that strong, and if they've impressed him. Now, in terms of Akuma's stamina isn't great. He is a key fighter, so key fighters tend to fight really. They tend to fight like glass cannon, very short term. They aren't exactly endurance fighters. They can't fight for days on end because their stamina will drain. It will take a toll on them, especially if they take the fight very seriously. So, in terms of stamina, Akuma's stamina isn't exactly, you know, the greatest. Okay, so that's it for Akuma. I've covered all his skills, abilities, and all that important stuff. He doesn't have an arsenal, so I don't really need to talk about anything else. So let's get on to Aaroniero, shall we? So I'm going to go over the backstory really quickly. It's not very important per se, but anyway, Aaroniero is a Gillian who is the 9th member of the Espada. Aaroniero was created by Sasuke Aizen via the Hogyoku. Before Aaroniero was created, there was an experimental hollow that Aizen created called Menastasia, which he sent out to absorb Soul Reapers. Now, this Menastasia wasn't any ordinary hollow. Now, usually when hollows eat and feast on souls, they get stronger, but this Menastasia, this interesting hollow, had an abnormal ability where if he was to absorb a soul, he would gain all their powers, their abilities, their memories, and their faculties. Now, unfortunately, Kai and Shiba's sister was met at her demise by the Menastasia, as the Menastasia had taken control of his sister and practically killed her. Kai and Shiba was enraged, so Kai and Shiba then went on to destroy this Menastasia just to become consumed by it, unfortunately, which is kind of grotesque. Rukia Kuchiki, unfortunately, was she was at the receiving end of this. She witnessed the death of her mentor, Kai and Shiba. So, unfortunately, Rukia did have to put Kai and Shiba down, because there was no way Kai and Shiba was coming back. He was dead. He was consumed by this Metastasia. So, after the Metastasia was killed by Rukia, it then retreated back to Waco Mundo, where he would reside every time he'd get killed. So, upon arriving, Aizen had created Aaroniero, and Aaroniero had then consumed Metastasia, obtaining all of his powers. So, I'm going to go on to the attack potency. I'm going to talk about all his skills, his hacks, his abilities, and all that impressive stuff. So, in base form, in terms of Aarionero's power and attack potency, he's around city level. If we in base, if we lowball, he's probably around town level plus. Again, the reasons why I'm saying this is because we do not know, like, the hollows that the Menastasia has consumed. They, there could be Gillians. It could have been like fodder hollows, like war level to large building level. Those type of hollows to like even like city block level. If that's a bit of a high reach, but again, we do not know what hollows he's absorbed and consumed. So city level is a consistent level to put him around in attack potency. In his resurrection state, Glotonera, which gives him a 10 times boost, a buff in terms of all his stats. Again, this is like a Bonkai for the Espada. This, in his form, it makes him around like over 33,650. He has the power of 33,650 hollows, which again including Kain Shiba's power. Now, Kain Shiba isn't exactly your average ordinary lieutenant. He's like a vice lieutenant, very powerful in his own right, especially with his Nejibana. So this would definitely make Aaroniero around multi-city level in terms of attack potency, which is very impressive. So going on to his other abilities, so he has the Sonido, which practically all of the Ronkars have. It's their own version of Flash Step, which allows them to move around at high speeds, so it's very useful. He also has, all of the Espada have this ability to open up the Garganta, so they can open up a dimension and travel through Waco Mundo to the world of the living, of course. Now, all of the Espada and even Hollows in general have this ability. They can use Acero, which is like a kind of like a spiritual pressure, like Ki Blast sort of thing. It's very powerful in its own right. Menos can use this, Ronkars can use this, Vizards can use this as well. Also, another thing, all of the Espada, even like Fractions, the Fodder, Ronkars, they all have, you know, the ability to process, like the ability to measure and also sense out spiritual pressure. So they're like, they have kind of like sensory abilities, which is really impressive. Also, they also have, well, I don't know if it's the weaker Espada, but I know it's probably 6 and higher. They also know the Gran Racero. Again, it's unclear if Aaroniero knows this, but the Gran Racero is like a very, very strong version of the ordinary Zero. It's so devastating, even Eisen forbid any of the stronger Espada from using it, because it will obliterate or damage or break Los Noches if, you know, when in the fight with Ukiura versus Ichigo, you know, even like the powerful ones from 4 and higher up in terms of Espada ranking, even powering up would, like, you know, cause Los Noches to completely be unstable and completely be obliterated. That's how strong the Espada were from 4 and up. And Eisen told him to go and fight somewhere else. So yes, the Gran Racero is very, very potent. Again, I don't know if Aaroniero has this. Again, he doesn't show it. So anyway, in his resurrection state, his Glotonera, he gains the ability to consume a host and gain all the memories and powers and abilities, as I said before, which is a very, very interesting skill. Very powerful and outright formidable. Again, when he absorbed Kain Shiba, he gained his Sonpokto, which was really impressive as well. And I'll get onto that in a second in terms of Arsenal. So, also, Aaroniero cannot be seen, as he is like an astral being and can only be seen by others who, you know, possess the ability to see spirits. Again, mortals cannot see like ghosts and spirits. Of course, they don't have the eyes for it unless they have an inherent ability to do so. For example, like the Renegon, which allows you to see like entities and spirits and stuff. So, going on to Aarioniero's arsenal. Aarioniero's arsenal, he does possess the ability, all the abilities of Kain Shiba, along with his Sonpokto called Nejibana, in which is described by Rukia as his upper body stance. It's a spear technique reminiscent of a dance, using one's wrist as the center of its rotation, and crushing the opponent between the spear's thrust and the rising waves. Very, 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 very strong. He has used this against Rukia as well, when in their fight when she was fighting Aaroniero. She was completely taken back by how well Aaroniero was able to use Kain Shiba's Sonpokto. But yes, continuing on, his intelligence, Aaroniero is kind of smart. He's, again, majority of the Espada are quite intelligent in some sense. They aren't exactly dummies unless they fight like idiots. Most of the Espada are just cocky, and arrogant, except for a couple. Again, they're like a bunch of Vegetas. They all care about their pride, and when their ego is shattered, they will panic and become very desperate. So, continuing on, reaction speed and travel speed. Aaroniero is a lightning timer as he moves and reacts at lightning speed. Before I get on to the rest of that, I'm going to debunk this little misconception that Versus Wiki have put for Aaroniero in terms of his speed. They lowballed his speed, saying is around like hypersonic plus, when that's not true. I've got guides, I've got videos, I've got proof here. Again, in the guidebook it states, like fast like lightning. Ichigo was able to, in Bankai, this is like early Bleach. We aren't even in near the Espada arc. Ichigo was able to tag Captain Kuchiki. He was able to speed blitz Captain Kuchiki. He was able to tag him with his sword, swap swords. He was able to cause Captain Kuchiki a lot of grief, in fact. And this is a captain level fighter. Now, captain level fighters in Bleach are no joke. They are very powerful in their own right. They are no slouches. Also, I've got more examples when Aaroniero used the Sonido to speed blitz behind Rukia. Rukia wasn't able to keep up with Aaroniero again. Rukia was getting cock-slapped all day. Aaroniero was legit like having her on the ropes. Another thing as well, Samari was able to, he's like the 7th Espada, he's fodder as well. He was able to use his Sonido to keep up with Kuchiki and even give him problems. He was able to tag Byakuya Kuchiki to the point where he had to use his Bankai against Samari to even do anything against him. So yes, that's pretty much it for my reasonings and of course my evidence as to debunk this little lie and this little misconception, which I'm not a fan of. But yes, Aaroniero is a lightning timer. All of the Espada are lightning timers. They move at those types of speed very fast. So in terms of weaknesses, Aaroniero is very cocky, very arrogant. He tends to fight like very silly, fight like an idiot sometimes. He likes to toy with his opponents. He gets joy from fighting, and putting his opponents on the end of the rope, basically. So, like he did with Rukia Kuchiki, like he could have completely consumed her and one-shotted her. He was very strong. Definitely could have ended Rukia, but unfortunately she did kill him, as he was caught off guard. You can say that if you'd like, but again, he had her on the Sanpokto and then got killed. And of course, another weakness, his head case is very weak. If his head case gets cracked, he will die. If it gets broken, which happened in the fight with Rukia versus Aaroniero. He also hates sunlight. He has this weird weakness to sunlight, as exposure to sunlight prevents him from using his shape-shifting abilities, and prevents him from fighting in sunlight as well, and also revealing his true form. So yes, that's it for the weaknesses. I'm going to talk about like his stamina. I've pretty much covered his durability. His durability isn't great, as his head case is very weak. Going on to the stamina, Aarionero's stamina is very, very good. Again, all of the Espada can fight for days on end. They have crazy amounts of stamina. They're very definitely endurance fighters. Very impressive in their own right. So now that I've covered all that, before I get into the results of who wins, I'd like to say thank you to Coral Keith for helping me with the research and all that good stuff. It was very difficult, a difficult outcome in terms of who will win. And of course, he helped me cover up some stuff I didn't know as well. So cheers for that. So yes, the winner of this fight is Akuma. Now, before you throw pitchforks at me, I just want to say this has to be the most toughest fight the most closest fight, in fact, because anyone could take this. Aaroniero could legit take this as well, but I've broken it down. There's one thing I did miss from the PowerPoint. Again, Aarionero's weakness to sunlight, but yes, I'll get into that in a bit. Now, how this fight boils down to is Aaroniero is going to consume Akuma, but Akuma will definitely win this fight because of that. So I have a weird example. I have a Japanese frog on the screen, and this frog's going to attempt to feast on this bug with this beetle, which is Akuma, and the frog is Aaroniero. And you see, I know this is really disgusting, but this is the best example I can give you for this fight. Aaroniero will be destroyed by the Bunko Tensho, as the frog will regurgitate the beetle, because the beetle gives off this weird chemical. So basically, in attack potency, Akuma wins this. Again, he's very strong in terms of going into Shin Akuma. Well, they're quite equal in terms of attack potency and base, but again, Akuma will get amped up and he will take the fight seriously if Aaroniero, again, Akuma cannot see Aaroniero, and if he's being attacked by a fighter he cannot see, he will take the fight seriously. Durability wise, Akuma does win this. Akuma, again, his durability equals his attack power, so again, a city level durability against village level to small town level durability, it won't be enough to Akuma could easily just do a casual like a Hadouken to Aarionero's head. I'm just saying, I know Aaroniero would legit speed blitz. I'm just saying, for example, if Akuma was to hit Aarionero's head case with a Hadouken, it will be game over with a nice easy city level attack. But yes, I digress. Travel speed, Akuma completely gets speed blitzed. Aarionero's speed is he's just very fast. Lightning is much faster than sound, so he'd easily speed blitz Akuma. Stamina, Aaroniero does take this. Aaroniero will toy with Akuma. It will happen. Akuma will eventually run out of stamina, but again, it just boils down to Aaroniero attempting to absorb Akuma. Intelligence, again, Aaroniero will win this. He will have some ways to go about the fight, so he will try to use the Giganta. He will take Akuma to a different location. Again, Akuma will probably exploit the fact that Aaroniero is weak to sunlight, but that's because, again, Akuma won't fight in dark terrains, because that's where Aaroniero prefers to fight. He likes fighting in dark areas. He doesn't fight in light. He prefers to operate in the dark. In terms of hacks, Akuma wins this. Akuma just has so many hard counters against Aaroniero. If Aaroniero was to use his consumption ability in his Gluttonera form, Akuma will just use Bunko Tensho and completely rip Aaroniero to shreds, as he did Nakali. And we can scale Nakali to Akuma around city level. And the funny part was Akuma in base was able to just rip through Nakali, and Akuma could rip through Aaroniero in base as well, because Aarionero's durability is pretty shit. It's not very good. Again, in a nice village level, a nice casual town level attack, and in this circumstance, Bunko Tensho, Akuma could legit just rip out of Aarionero's stomach. And rip him to shreds, literally. Akuma does have the Raging Demon. Again, you can argue Akuma won't be able to land this in, a normal fight, because Aaroniero will be able to react and speed blitz. But again, the reasons why Akuma can hit the Raging Demon, because Aaroniero, again, he's a very cocky fighter. he tends to fight like an idiot, again, like he did with Rukia, like he was cock slapping Rukia. Rukia like had no chance of winning at all unless she was stable, unless she could hit his headpiece, his head case. Again, I just see that situation, that scenario happening, where Aaroniero will toy with Akuma, and Akuma will just go Raging Demon, and Aaroniero will turn to nothing. He will just turn to dust. So yes, also the Raging Demon will work. Aaroniero is a bad, evil entity. Again, very arrogant, cocky. He serves Aizen, and Aizen isn't exactly a good guy also. So yes, Astral Defenses, Munko Tensho will work on Aaroniero. Aarionero's hacks, yes, he cannot be seen, but that won't matter because Aaroniero will try to grab Akuma and attempt to absorb him with the Glotonera, or even with his tentacles. Akuma will just go Munko Tensho, break the resistance, completely rip Aaroniero to shreds. So yes, if you disagree with this, I completely understand. In fact, me and Coral Keith will be doing like a collab soon, so we will talk about this a little further as to why Aaroniero can win this and Akuma can win this also. Again, it just boils down to, you know, better hacks. Akuma has better hacks, better hard counters. Munko Tensho, Raging Demon, attack potency. He could level the playing field, cause sunlight to, you know, burst in the area. To, you know, he will expose Aaroniero to sunlight because Akuma will need to see, and Aaroniero will not like that. And even if Aaroniero was to take Akuma to Hueco Mundo, it will not matter. Again, it just boils down to Aaroniero going to consume Akuma, and Akuma is just going to rip out of Aaroniero. So yes, looks like Aaroniero could not stomach this bug. So the winner of this fight is Akuma. Thank you all for watching. This is my first video on my versus debate video. If you folks enjoy my content, please remember to leave a like, comment down below, give me your feedback. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Subscribe for more content, and of course stay tuned for my next preview. It's going to be really good. So yes, this is Forest Green signing out, and I hope you folks have a great day.